Thank you very much. So that's great to see you here, guys. It's really a great honor for me to be here. But to start with, could I ask you where you work and who you teach? So do you teach young learners, adults, teenagers? Could you please type in the chat box so that we know what kind of teachers we have here? And mostly adults, individual classes. Right. Usually children. Nice. So we have a bit of everything. One-to-one. That's amazing. Young learners, teenagers. Yeah, we have a lot of variety here. All right. And young learners. All right. So we'll try to share, like, that's great that we have all these different types, like different experience, and we can share and talk about it. And I'm sure you do a lot of things to make your course book more interesting for the context you're teaching. Then, as like most of you choose or select your own course book. So for you, so what are the criteria of selecting a good course book? So like, give me like one or two things that you put first, how you prioritize them. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, for young learners. Oh, okay, a lot of images related to vocabulary. This is Sonia, and you're working with Italian. You teach Italian and usually children, right? So a lot of images. Yes, a lot of images for vocabulary. That's brilliant, because kids are usually visual learners. They need pictures. Adults need pictures as well. So yes, availability and cost. Yes, that's really important. Yes. Yes, that's a very good point. Like balance of skills and language practice. So in course books, for me, the most important thing is like the relevance to your students. And because like we always think, especially like as you, like there are a lot of you are working with one-to-one students and teaching adults, right? So, and when we start teaching, you think about needs analysis. So you talk to the student, you figure out what they want. They figure out like how long they want to have classes, how often classes, like how often do they like to have classes, what their interests are, what they want to achieve at the end of the course or something like that, right? If you work with adults, you also work with their interests. You also work with their like what kind of language they need to study, and you start from there. And then you look at the course book, and like, and like if you work with teenagers, so like very often the reason for teenagers to learn a language is because it's part of their curriculum, right? It's part of the program for young learners. It's part of the school program, so that's what we do, part of the curriculum. But it still needs to be relevant to your learners, to their interests. So what their interests are. So what are their hobbies? Right. But then, of course, I agree. So there should be the balance of skills and language practice if we're talking about general English, right? Unless you have a specific adult who needs who are with you for 2 weeks and he needs to practice the presentation for some specific, conference. And in this case, you work specifically with presentation skills and like a bit of language. But in general, yes, you're working with the balance between like there should be enough grammar, enough vocabulary, enough skills, materials for developing skills, listening, reading, writing, and speaking, of course. I also think it's important for teachers to figure out whether they have teacher's book and workbook, how teacher friendly the book is. So because it will save you a lot of time, it will save you a lot of preparation time, right? You can find supplementary material easily online everywhere, but the point is you would need time to do that, right?
Now, I was just wondering, because you know what I'm thinking? Very often, I mean, that's my experience, okay, with teachers as a teacher trainer. Very often when teachers are asked about the criteria they use to select a course book. They don't know. They can't even formulate the criteria. So I'm thinking, okay, could all the attendees, as we are here now, can we all just type into the chat box? And if we could just share the title, your favorite course book, the book that you like most, and then see if we can identify the feature of the book that people really like. So I'm going to start by naming my book. Okay. If we could all do it, we have like 1 minute. If we could all share our favorite course book. That's me. Okay, we have speak out, cutting edge. I can't believe that, because that would be my next choice. So outcomes, new English file, cutting edge, headway. Now, this is very, very interesting because, right, okay. Could we, whoever selected headway, could you tell us why headway? Because this is the book I particularly dislike. So I'm really curious what the criteria in your case may be that I don't know, that makes me, I mean, why I don't like it and you like it. So let's just
okay, that was me.
Oh, right, okay, go on.
What I do with that is that I always like to supplement whichever course book I use. What I like about Headway is, for instance, the reading text, the difficulty, which I like when it comes to, for instance, new English file. I find that the text, let's say for intermediate level students, are too easy to understand, and in Headway I find them challenging enough, for instance. But when it comes to grammar, for instance, I teach grammar kind of my way, and I use the tasks to supplement, my presentation.
So you just pick and choose from Headway. I can tell you, I mean, I can tell you why I don't like Headway. What I like about Headway is the pronunciation focus. I think it's one of the best course books ever. But what I don't like is that Headway is really heavy on grammar. Okay, it's packed with grammar, and this grammar is sold to students in a very controlled. I mean, the grammar that we teach in a controlled way. So if you use Headway, then obviously if you don't have the skills that Olga has demonstrated today, where you can take a really uninspiring activity and change it, applying the rules of change, exploit, and extend, right? You change it to make it really communicative. If you don't have the skill to do that, then you end up with really boring, highly controlled practice activities because it's so heavy on grammar. So that's my personal experience with Headway.
That's why I do not follow everything in actually any course books. I just pick and choose whatever my students need most.
Yeah, I wonder, because there's someone who said outcomes. Who's that? Is that that's another one that I am not particularly a fan of, but Joe. Sure. Joe, would you like to tell us why you like outcomes?
Hi.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hi. Mainly because I just like all the online features. There's Word documents that you can edit. I mean, I'm actually an academic manager, so I don't have a great experience in the classroom, but outcomes is one of the most popular in our school.
Yeah. Do you know why? Why do you think your teachers like it? Because I think the point you've just made is really valid. What you said about extra materials and online support, that's a valid point in particular nowadays. But I wonder why your teachers like it.
I think they just like the variety of what's in the course book, what's in the workbook and the online facilities, and they like the videos, and it's definitely one of the most popular in our school. And I think they like the level of challenge.
I think it's quite up to date as well, right? It has lexical approach and like a lot of lexical chunks that you could use, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So it's really popular in a lot of places, and yes.
Yeah, thank you, Jo. Thank you. And one more. There was speak out. Anna.
I think something had to contribute.
Yeah, Anna.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah,
Speak out.
Because I can understand why cutting edge. Why speak out?
Mainly because it's got a lot of extra resources. Yeah, I can't say I particularly like the book itself, the student's book, but there are a lot of extra resources that you can use. Videos, extra grammar practice, extra writing practice, listening, reading, and whatnot. So, mainly.
Yes, yeah. So again, it's the variety that Jo talked about, I guess. So many course books, and so hard to really. It's so difficult to decide on one particular course book. But do you think that sometimes it's just really your personality, like certain course books just speak to you, and it doesn't matter what criteria you have, skills and systems balance or extra activities. It's just something that you go through, you just flick through the book and you can relate to it in a sense. I mean, this is how I have always felt about the new English file and cutting edge in a sense. And I like to think that it's because the books are based on the TBL methodology, seemingly, because, obviously not quite. So I like to think that this is the reason why I like it so much. But yes, but if you pushed me, I'm not quite sure if I would be able to give you a clear-cut answer why I like it.
I think it's very personal. I think you're absolutely right. It's very personal, and that's why a lot of people use the same books like over and over again. But a lot of people also change the books from year to year. So those who like the variety, so books like New English File, I love it, and they have all new materials, but like very often they get outdated very quickly because the material, for example, they can talk about like new TV series, and like in a year or in 2 years, so everybody forgets about this TV series and it's not there anymore. So you have to change, to substitute it with something else. So in this case, I feel like using Headway is safer because they use like some neutral, like the selection of topics, I would say, is very neutral. And for example, like markets all over the world, or like boys or girls, I don't know, like boys versus girls and their jobs and stuff like that. And they have a good set of materials on jigsaw reading. Well, like it's prepared for you. It's there, unless if you work with New English File or Cutting Edge. So you have to, you still have to find some extra materials for the reading. I'd say it's like this. But I think I do agree with you, Gabi. I think it depends on the person. It's all about personality. Yeah.
I have to say that I have a couple of not questions but reflections after your video. First of all, I mean, I have to say that I absolutely loved how you transformed this New English File boring gap fill activity. Okay, even New English File can be boring. But this absolutely uninspiring activity, and how you changed it into a full-blown lesson, because that's really what happened. And what I particularly like about how you dealt with this, how you changed this activity, is that you because the problem with course books is that, I mean, oftentimes they are predictable, and you said this yourself. So what happens is we select a course book, right? After 2-3 modules or units, students get so used to the format of the book that every single activity is simply predictable. They know exactly what to expect in their next unit. So and obviously predictability will impair students' ability to notice, okay? And if students don't notice language, they can't learn. And this is what I loved about your activity, where you just took these sentences and you got students to reconstruct sentences based on answers. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's so inspiring. And then you managed to extend it by adding, like, selecting the grammar points that you thought your students would benefit from, I don't know, learning more about. And then, so you expanded on this, and then you also turned it into a speaking activity. So the point I'm making is, less is more. You take one activity from a course book, and you, by using the 3 principles, change, explore, exploit, and extend. These are your 3 principles. You essentially develop a full-blown lesson, okay, based on one activity. And another thing is that students can still do this task, this boring gap fill. You can set it as homework. You can just ask them to go home and do it again. So this is repetition. So what happens is they do the same activity 3 times, right? And then one last time at home. So this is retention. So it's not just going from one activity to another, but it's essentially exploiting one simple activity over and over again and selling it to students, you know, under the, I don't know, guise of, like, via different skills as well. So you could, you take grammar. Yeah, sorry.
I would do it actually the other way around. I would give it to them as homework, as a revision exercise. They do it. So once they fill in the blanks on the slips of paper, they already are familiar with it, but they don't remember. They can recognize it and say, oh yes, we did it at home. Okay, fine, do it then. And in this case, they like, but you still will be surprised, because like the moment you ask them, so could you reconstruct the sentence? And they couldn't reconstruct the sentence at first, because sometimes there are 2 words, or sometimes there are 2 phrases, or sometimes like they just don't pay attention to that. That's why when they work together, it triggers a lot of conversation. It works like dictogloss, you know, like no, we cannot put it here because it's like it's B, it's after B, there should be ing or no, something like that. So they talk about grammar, like based on what they have learned.
Yeah. But do you, if I may ask another question, do you actually do, like, yourself as a teacher, do you use controlled grammar practice activities from course books as they are sold in the course book, or do you always make them communicative?
Well, I'm trying to make them communicative as much as possible, because like the first step for me would be just to for the students to do it, like they can do it in writing, like gap fill activity or whatever. But then there should be the next step when you want to exploit it. So let them practice it, let them test each other, let them just ask each other the same questions that are in the book, or role play. So because in this case, like they need controlled practice whether you want it or not, and they need written activity because it will help them to memorize it better. Yeah. But after that, they need to put it into speaking. Yeah, so that's what we do.
Yeah, Hedy was trying to say something, but she's muted.
Okay, so it's, you know, it's you make it look so easy, Olga. So, and teachers with a lot of experience just look at a task and know immediately what else they can do from that. But what help can you give to newly qualified teachers who do not have the experience? So what should inform their decision regarding what else can I do with this task or a task?
But this is another thing. This is like what I think it should come also from, like, first of all, if you're a newly qualified teacher and if you work for a big company, like big institution, so there's always like director of studies or academic director who can help you, right? So there's a senior teacher who can help you do something, right? That's one thing. And then another thing is that you can do is you can play, like you can think of what you would like to do as a learner, and apply this. We were so thinking about like what games you can play and apply, like in your L1, for example, and apply them to these particular activities, like noughts and crosses, tic-tac-toe, or something like that, and think how you can do it. But like we'll talk about it later. But yes, for newly qualified teachers, I agree. So this is not very easy. So for them, that's why you have all these continuous professional development sessions and experienced teachers to help them with that. So I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say what I often do is I like to, it's simply because I hate predictability. Okay, so I really like to keep students on their toes. So however activities are sold in the book, I always change them. So if it's a listening, I turn it into a reading, or maybe a writing. If grammar can be turned into, like, practice activities can be turned into, again, speaking activities, and it's all about making your students think. So the moment they look at a task in the book, this is already predictable. Okay, they know that we are going to ask them to fill in the gap, and they know that this is the target language. So if this is the target language, I just do it again and again. But do I really notice the target language? So that's why I always changed whatever is in the course book. It's probably time consuming, but it's really, it just pays off because you change the dynamics of the class as well.
Yes. And I think if the next lesson you will use the same listening, but for listening purpose, they wouldn't recognize it.
Yes, so and that was my next point, that I like to use the same text, the same reading, the same listening, but I sell it in a different way. So essentially, you can take one activity from a book and you just change the focus, as you said in your presentation. You change the focus from, say, practicing listening skills to practicing lexies, from practicing lexies to practicing grammar. And the way you sell this text to your students, the way you tweak it, you make it an unrecognizable text. Students very often can't recognize the text they've already used two or three times. So,
and I think this is what Jo mentioned in her comment here. So this type of exploiting an exercise is a feature of Underhill and Scrivener's demand high. Yes, it is a kind of demand high. Yes, and it's like, and that's, but the problem with demand high is that experienced teachers can do it. Yes, because we can see where it is and how to do it, and that's how we can help newly qualified teachers. That's when we were talking about it, like, if you're a director of studies and you're observing some lessons, and then you can just pick some things and focus on these things and say, okay, so these things could have been done in a different way. Let's have a look at what else can we do here, or what else could you have done at this point and when you were teaching. So that's how you can just give feedback using that. So that's how you just you train your newly qualified teachers to work actually on that. Yeah.
I guess
develop this awareness.
I think new teachers, or teachers who kind of lack confidence, because I mean, I remember myself as a teacher, you know, it's a terrifying feeling when you are students. So teachers who don't have that much experience could just start small. So I mean, if say when you plan your lesson, you look at activities in the course book in a slightly different way, like find one little thing that you could change about this activity, just one. That means that you develop a habit of kind of owning the material that you use in the classroom, because if you just follow a course book, you don't own the material. It's not yours.
Very good point, Gabi. So let's move to practice then. So like while we are still on grammar and vocabulary, so like my point was like how to change the activities. Can you like think of 3 ways or 3 different ways of using activities, right? So let me check. We'll do it in a different way a bit because, oops, here we have the, okay, just hold on. This is what we have. Can you see it quite well?
I can see it. I don't know if all the attendees can see it.
Yeah, so but if like it's just a typical text about London Eye. So sorry, I think we'll go with with the way it's organized. So with skills first and then grammar and vocabulary at the end. All right. Okay. So if you have a look at it, so it's a typical text again from. Oh, this is from Headway, actually, pre-intermediate.
That's what I was about to say. Oh, this is such a boring text and activity. Maybe not the text, but the activity that goes with it.
It's workbook. Look, but this is from workbook. So this is for the homework. Well, who said that homework should be fun, you know? No. Work, right?
Yeah.
No. Right. Okay. So have a look at it. So in the chat box, guys, could you please write down what can you do with this text? So Gabi, you would probably turn it into listening, right?
Yeah, but how we could use the 3
how can we change it, how can we extend it, how can we exploit it? What can we change here?
Yeah, I mean,
it's the task, fill in the gaps, read the text, fill in the gaps with the it's a very nice scanning task, right? Because there are a lot of numbers, a lot of names, so the students need to do that. So okay.
Well, I can tell you what I would do. Just like if you gave me 3 minutes to adapt this material, I'd probably divide my class into how many questions do we have? 5, say 4 or 5 groups, and I would have given so let's say 4 or 5 groups, and you give 1 question or 1 set of questions, because there are, like in the first question there are 3 sentences. You give 1 set of questions to 1 group, so everybody reads the same text, but then you give them you give each group different questions, and then you change it into a mingle task. So how can we do it? You have to think with me because I'm improvising here. So if my question is write 2 facts about the London Eye, it's this. So I read the text in my group and I answer just the 1 question. Okay, I can't see the other questions. Then I have to stand up and I talk to other people or other groups and ask them my question. So they now have to remember what they can't remember from the text. Okay, obviously they are not going to remember much because you will just give them 3 minutes to read the text. But it's not the point how much they remember. The point is that you take them away from the text. Okay, you get them up for about 3 minutes. They speak, and
they mingle, they walk around, and they ask each other the same question. Yeah.
When they sit back, they actually have to read the questions again and answer them, and this time they notice the questions.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Them to sit and read the questions and answer the questions. I mean, that would be, Joe has an idea as well. What do students know about the London Eye? That's it. So maybe use part of the text for, dictation would be my next choice here. Extra research at home, could be paragraphs on the wall, and then students. So there is a lot you can
exactly,
do.
Or you can make it a race. You can just ask them to, like, you can have all slips of paper, all the questions with you, and one person from the group can come to you, take a question, then run, read, find the answer, write the answer, and bring it back to you. Oh my God, that will be a lot of work for them. Run, come back, yes.
But the whole idea is by asking your students to, okay, here is the text, okay, read the questions now. You have 3 minutes to read the text, answer the questions. This is just so predictable.
But you also could do it as a board race. You can ask them to read the question first, and then, or maybe like, yes, and then you can read the same question. You say, London, like, what was the question there? For example, there was like, it is high, and then you need to have, like, they can work in teams, and the first person from the team can run to the board and write the answer.
Yeah.
So they have to read and then run to the board and write the answer. In this case, it will add the competition as well. Yeah.
So essentially what we are saying is do not buy activities at their face value. Like, if this is how it's in the book, it doesn't mean that you have to do it.
And not necessarily it should be like, it should be relevant to who you're teaching, right? I would say that, like, in terms of extent, you can ask the students actually to read the text and write maybe like 3 or 4 questions that they would like to ask the opposite team. So if you put them into 2 teams and 3 groups, for example, ask them, write 3 or 4 questions. Don't give them the questions from the task, but let them do the work. So this is another way how you can, like, lift the materials from the book, right? So of the page, so as you said, right? In terms of exploiting, so this is a very nice text because it has a lot of proper names, right? A lot of sites and a lot of numbers. So I would work with this one. I would also work with Ferris wheel. So what it is, like when it was invented, or blah, 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 stuff like that. I would also ask the students, maybe if you have internet at school, I just gave them 5 or 10 minutes to find out more information about London Eye, because it's amazing. So they have like I just Googled online. It has like, it doesn't have capsule number 13 because for good luck or something like that. So stuff like that. So tiny things, and it can be, and you can turn it into a quiz, or like a pop quiz with the teams as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
I wonder if anybody else has any ideas about how they, I don't know, come or make Coursebooks come alive, because that's really what we're doing here. I'm trying to think of how to make Coursebook materials more communicative, more personalized, and obviously how you make it your own. So how you change it, how you change one little thing about an activity to make it your own. So I was wondering if someone else has anything else to add, or if you are an academic manager, how do you support your teachers? Sonia wanted to say.
Hello?
We can hear you, Sonia.
We can hear you, Sonia.
So one exercise that I was thinking about is like, let one of the students read the text, focusing on the main vocabulary, and maybe another student or other students may write it down in the board to check the spelling. I don't know.
So what you're saying is, read it out, one student reads it out, and another student writes it on the board, and then focus on the spelling. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, this way, what you do is you focus, you change the reading activity into a writing activity in a sense, right? With a focus on spelling in particular. Yeah, and this way, again, it's just an example of how you can make a reading, how you can make a course book activity your own, because it's all about making this teaching material your own. So you can say, I changed it, and I'm very proud I could do it. And your students, it just makes so much difference, because it's not just the students that have to be happy. It's the teacher. I mean, if the teacher is not happy, then the students will not be happy. And the teacher can only be happy if you really enjoy the material you're teaching. So we don't want to teach from somebody else's lesson plans, right? We want our own. So yeah, that's why it's so important that we change activities in the course book.
Let's have a look at the listening part, right? So what if, like, this is the text, but I think I particularly like this activity. It's brilliant for adults. You see 3 people, so 3 stories at a crosswords on life. So they have to listen to the people, so have problems, so like crosswords in their life, complete the chart, what has happened, what choices do they have. And then so they listen twice, one for gist, what has happened, and then the second time, what choices do they have, so for more detail. If you look at it, it's not actually, this for adults maybe all right, yes, but not for teenagers.
Yeah.
If you work with teenagers, but you have to work, so sometimes like in some language schools, you're given this like Headway or whatever book it is, and they have this, and this is like what can you do with it, right?
Yeah, but you see, I told you, this is Headway. Look how boring it is. It really is. I mean, there are 3 people. That means that you expect students to listen to 3 speakers. Do you know how long this is going to take? Listening to 3 people will probably take about 15 minutes. So by the time the audio finishes, stops, students will have fallen asleep. So I wonder if anybody has any suggestions for this. How would you make it your own? What would you change in this task?
I mean, it's not even necessary to listen to all 3 speakers at the same time, so you can just choose 1 or 2 depending on the language that they use, or depending on what you want to do with that specific script that they use.
I particularly like your idea about shortening this task. It's way too long, I think. And also, how do you feel about a jigsaw listening here? So instead of getting students to actually listen to 3 speakers, you get them to listen to one particular speaker and then do a role play, right? So you put them in a group of 3, so 3 students in each group. They are given different names.
Jigsaw is brilliant idea, and like this is what people would normally do, because they're 3 speakers. Jigsaw with QR code generator is very easy to do now. I like the idea. So the other day there was a webinar, I think not the other day, so some time ago, by Ken Wilson, and he said, make it your story. If this is not like, it's your story, so you can involve the students into it, and it's such a great idea. It's a brilliant idea. It's like you start reading this story. So for example, there was something like, I've had some bad news about my job. So this is how it started. I've had some bad news about my job. And then you stop and say, okay, what do you think the bad news are? Yeah. And you elicit with students, like from the students, different ideas. I think he got fired, or I think something else. Okay, where do you think he works? Right. Okay, what is the name of the company? And they created their own story. So, and as they are creating their own story, they're getting more and more interested in it. So I absolutely love the idea, because in this case, like this, it is still listening, because they're listening to you. It's live listening. They have to listen to each other, right? So that's
Yeah.
one thing. So they are developing their listening skills, plus they're developing their speaking skills as well.
Plus, they are developing their writing skills or note-taking skills, because to be able to actually speak for a couple of minutes, students need to have some kind of a mind map. So they learn how to take notes, right? Or
like you can change it like this, yes, and turn it into writing activity, yes, or take notes, yeah, after that. But this is, I think, and this idea, so it works everywhere. I think this is such a great idea. I had another one, so to make it a skeleton dictation. So like it's similar to that. Or say I've had bad news about my job. Okay, what do you think? And they have to write it as because it's a dictation. What do you think happened? Write one sentence about what happened. Okay, I work for this company for how many years do you think you worked for this company? Or finish the sentence. If I do this, I would finish the sentence. And you can select this the sentences that you think might be useful for your students, might be relevant for your students, and work with them.
I mean, the main point we are trying to make in this workshop is that yes, that whatever books you are using, whatever course books you select, make them your own course books, in the sense that you adapt every single activity to keep you alive as a teacher, and to keep your students alive, and also the course book itself. So so yeah, and that's why we are sharing these individual tasks with you, trying to inspire you in a sense. But yeah, and we have really good ideas from you as well.
All right. So, and also I was thinking that I think it might be helpful for those who it's always easy to find something else, but what if something is not working? Your photocopier broke down, something's not working, like there is no internet connection, you cannot go online, you don't have the resources, you have to substitute for some reason, and in 5 minutes or in 10 minutes. So you can just if you have these some ideas how to exploit it, how to change the material, so it will help you just to act,
to improvise.
To improvise and act on the spot. Yes, absolutely. Yes. That's the word, Gabi. Yes, that's the word.
To improvise, which is never ever easy. So improvising is extremely difficult, and it takes a lot of experience.
Yeah, I had something else. So just like the last slide that I'm going to share, I think. Oh no, not the last. Maybe it's like the writing activity, because I just wanted to say that nowadays we have pretty good writing activities, right? In the course books, and the way they are scaffolded. So you need to do this and this and this. They create they set the context. Everything is there. There's very good focus on the layout, focus on vocabulary. It's there. The only thing is that sometimes such activities are you can still find in the books, and you don't know what to do with it. I once come across it, there was write a formal email to a hotel or to somewhere else, and and we did a very good job with the students. There was we set the context, blah blah blah, everything was there. So this is the formal email. Teenagers said nobody writes emails anymore, and this is something we have as reality, right? Because they do write short messages, they do write WhatsApp messages, or maybe not WhatsApp, whatever groups they're there. So but they don't write formal emails. A friend of mine had a brilliant idea. Again, not me, but the friend of mine had a brilliant idea. She said, okay, so she went online. She said she found some hotel websites and say, write an inquiry letter. So ask them some questions about the hotel you want to book a room, book a room and stuff like that. And good hotels, they have to answer. they have to answer, and they have to answer formally. And that's what happened. So at the end, so all these like teenagers received actually emails from the hotel, which is a real email, real life story. And I think like she did a great job. It was a brilliant idea, like, to do that. So
Yeah,
it just like make it real life. So this should be real life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about understanding your audience as well. So if you have a clear audience, like the teenagers who had to write to a particular hotel, that makes the whole experience so much better and different, more meaningful. Yeah.
But for example, like another story, like describe your friend. So it's a typical. So we're learning a set of words about description, right? So describe like the appearance and the look of the person.
Yeah.
But how often in real life and in what situations do we actually do that? Do we describe a person?
Yeah.
So what my point is, like, if you have a task like this, make it relevant to real life. Make it very specific. So think about your, like, a typical situation in which you have to do that, and then apply it to your lesson.
Yeah.
So like what I could come up with, because like I think this is that might be me, but this is like the only situation when I have to describe a person without, like, not online, not on the internet, but verbally or maybe in writing, is when I have something stolen and I'm in the police and I'm just reporting the attacker, a mugger or something.
Yeah, I have an idea as well for this task. I'd probably change it to describe someone you really don't like. If you can think of someone you really don't like, you don't have to give us the name, okay? But now you can vent your anger, your feelings, okay? Put it down on paper. Why is it that you don't like this person? What is it about this person that really gets you? So yeah, I mean, personalize it in this.
The communicative value of this, should we have, like, do we have to guess the person then?
Yeah, and then you can just do a mingle activity. Describe a classmate, right? No, but seriously, what it is yeah, just change it. So a really boring task, describe a friend, which has no meaning. Make it personal. Yeah.
And then you could rewrite that text using, the opposite, the antonyms of adjectives.
Make it positive and make it actually negative.
Yeah, as an extension. So what you would be doing is you are now working with lexis.
I think I had some other things about, like, online teaching, because like and we have still one question. I'm not sure, like, we need to answer one question. So for online tools, because I know that a lot of you guys moved from offline classroom to online classroom, right? And we don't know, like, how often, like, how long we're going to be here. I just wanted to show some of the online tools, and just tell me which ones do you use and which one, like, maybe you can use some extra. So like, these are some of the tools that I'm using on the regular basis. If you're familiar with all of them, we're not going to look at them. If not, then I can just, like, briefly comment on them.
So that would be to supplement.
Or doing the same activities but online.
Way, yeah.
For example, for mingling, you can use breakout rooms.
Yeah,
and that's an amazing tool, because, like, if you use Zoom most of the time, so you can do mingling, you can change the students there, right?
Anna is using Padlet, Jamboard, and boards. How can you actually use Jamboard?
Oh, Jamboard is very easy to use, and it's let me show you. So it's an extension on Google, I think. This is what you can do with it. So this is what it looks like, and you just send a link to the students and they can just access it. And this is what you can do. For example, here I put some words on the slips of paper and then can just group them they can do it at the same time, and you can see them moving the things
But
on board at the same time. So this is like collaborative whiteboard.
Okay, but that's something that you can only use to teach. What can you teach? Grammar, lexis. You can't really do skills, can you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's interactive whiteboard. Yes, it's interactive whiteboard, and it's like
online.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why not? Sorry, can I
Yeah,
say a word here?
go ahead.
Yes. So, for example, you can put parts of the text on Jamboard on different stickers, and they will have to reorder them. So why not? And writing as well.
Yeah.
You can write on Jamboard. You can create several copies, and they can write at the same time.
That's interesting. See, and Emina says, word wall.
Word wall. Word wall is brilliant because you can. Oh yes, you use it. Yeah, a lot. Word wall is it's just an extra tool that you can make it more interesting, like make your exercises like more engaging for the students. Like if you have discussion, for example, right, and you put the questions for discussion in these boxes. I mean, like you choose the template later on, and then when you tap on the question, say, okay, which question do you choose? And they say number 2, and you click on number 2, and they show the like it's moving around, right? On Jamboard, you can do Wheel of Fortune like this, so you can click on it, it can spin. I don't use the movable thing here because it's just I was not sure like whether the internet connection will be stable or not. But it's somehow you can supplement your, like you make a discussion more interesting for the students. Add some pictures, add some fun, and they can like you can spin it, but you can project it on the board as well, right?
I wonder if you could use it for grammar. I'm sure there is a way to do it as well.
For grammar, yes, you can like they can do gap fill 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and they can spin the wheel, for example, and choose the sentence that they need to like fill the gap into, or open the bracket. So any exercise you can just turn into this.
Well, say conditionals. Just the beginning, they have to finish. Yeah, so really, this is it's more of a game.
Yeah, it's more of a game. It adds just some.
Well, the element of unpredictability. So the sentences
definitely
don't
yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they are all on the wheel.
Yeah. So that's it. So pretty much you use most of this. Like in terms of, I think it's more than enough because in terms of online teaching, I think also less is more. Offline or online, less is more, because sometimes we have so many activities that we just don't know how to manage them all. But it's always nice to have some extra bits, some extra parts that you can use. I mean, extra activity that you can use, right?